I want to share with you a couple of things that we have learned in our family. I've learned as a woman, as a mother, through this special journey that we're on that I think is useful for a lot of people. My mom used to have this saying, learn from the mistakes of others. You'll never live long enough to make them all yourself. So here we get to learn from other people's challenges, so hopefully you don't have to go through them yourself. So when Yitzi was diagnosed with ALS, as you saw in the video, it was his 41st birthday, and they gave us at that time a year and a half for him to live. It's been 6.5 years, and he is doing amazing. It's been a challenging life. It's been a special life. We married off a daughter last summer, and our youngest son is having his bar mitzvah September 1st. So there's a lot that he gets to take part of that we never imagined he would be here for. But I do want to share with you a couple of tools that I picked up along the way. Yitzi by nature is a very happy person. Yitzi, my husband. And I by nature am just normal, which next to him I thought was a pessimist, but turns out it's just normal. And he always was getting me books like on happiness, because it's important to be happy, of course. And I always told him, look, I know how important it is. I just don't know where the button is. Like, how do you turn on happiness, right? And it was something that I always admired. I met him, I saw him first when I was 14, and that was the first thing that I saw was his joy and his happiness. And it was something that I struggled with a lot. I think as moms, we worry about a lot of things that perhaps dads don't worry about. We don't sleep so well. And it all adds to it. But then he got sick, and I thought, we have such a short time left. What kind of time is it going to be? Is it going to be worthwhile time? Is there a way to make happy memories with the kids? Is it going to be time that he would enjoy, that he would be proud of me? And for me, that was really like the switch. The switch was I didn't have another choice. I could sit in my closet and cry, or we can actually live. And deciding to be happy is a little bit like deciding to lose weight. Nothing happens. You have to make changes in your life. And I made changes back then. And this was 6.5 years ago, and the kids have grown up since then, and life is always changing, so there's always different things that we need to change or we need to tweak a little bit. But one thing is the idea that external things can cause somebody to be internally happy is a strange thing that we expect. If we had something, if we were something, if we were skinnier, if we had a little bit more money, if we had a better job, then I would be happy. But the truth is that happiness is something that comes from the inside. And when you are happy, even if your job isn't great, you're still happy. So whatever you have in your life has like a rose-colored lens if you can understand how to approach it with joy. And I'm not saying external things don't help. Like if something is falling apart in your life, it's going to impede your happiness. Whether it's a kitchen or a marriage, it's going to cause you issues, depending on how severe it is. And there are times where buying lipstick really helps. I'm not saying don't do that. Like the small Band-Aids to give yourself a boost is really sometimes very valuable. But it's really an internal struggle towards becoming whole, even if your life feels like it's broken. So at that time, I made a few choices. Number one, I'm not going to take myself so seriously. So we all have pictures of what we're going to be like when we grow up. I had this image of somebody tall and sophisticated. And for me, it was like, that's never going to happen. It was really hard to put up an act all the time. It was exhausting. And I'm really silly, and I can be a dork. I'm very good at embarrassing my kids, and I decided to just embrace it. Not work so hard to portray this image of somebody I thought I would be. We have a lot of music in our house. Music is really important. There are certain times of the calendar, like right now, where we don't listen to music because they're days of mourning. Music is really, really uplifting. So we have a lot of music in the house. My husband is very musical. He played guitar and sang beautifully, and 5 of the kids play guitar, and they all sing beautifully. There's piano and harmonica and a violin and drums, of course, if you didn't have a headache yet. There's a lot of music in the house. And I think this is really very helpful for us, but it might not be helpful for everybody. So you all have to find what that is in your life that actually brings joy. But most importantly, the way I relate to my kids. So sometimes as moms, we decide we need to show them who's in control. So when they want something, we are stricter than we need to be. We say no more often than we have to because we really want them to know who's in control. And I have a secret to tell you guys. We are not in control. God is in control, and he has gifted us with treasures. And we don't have to show them who's boss. We have to love them. And when they want something, I think to myself, number 1, could I afford it? Number 2, is it going to get in the way of their relationship with God or their connection to people or their character development? And if not, and I can say yes, what type of person would I be if I say no? Now, by all means, the kids are not spoiled, but things that bring them joy, things that make them happy, things that make them feel loved and understood is really important. I also have in my mind a 5-year rule. And this, I think, applies to like all of our relationships. We often argue about things, and sometimes you see families that haven't spoken in years, and when you ask them why, it's really hard to pinpoint that one thing that happened, because it doesn't make a difference in 5 years. And when we're arguing about something, I think to myself, is this going to make a difference in 5 years? Is it going to make a difference in 5 minutes? Because I would much rather have peace in my home than be right. Because I don't take myself so seriously, but I love my kids. This time of the Jewish calendar has, it's a bit of a serious time. It's right before Tisha B'Av, which is the saddest day on the Jewish calendar. A lot of tragedies happen, and during this time is when we increase our acts of love of a fellow Jew, of a fellow person. And we have this line that we all know, love your neighbor as yourself, right? This is what they call the klal gadol of the Torah, the big rule of the Torah. And we all learn this, and at this time we try extra hard to love our neighbors, but there's one part that I want to talk about right now. If you don't love yourself, you're not doing this right. And I think a lot of us have this negative voice. The most negative voice that we're ever going to hear in our life is ours, inside our head, telling us that you're not good enough. Like, you know, when you start a new diet and it's just 2 p.m. and you've already broken it 4 times, you know, you're never going to do it. Disappointment and failure and constantly putting ourselves down is something that we are expert in. And you cannot really love other people more than you love yourself. Because that's where you measure love, and that's where it comes from. You cannot hate yourself and think that you have an endless supply of love for other people. It just doesn't work that way. I think when Rabbi Akiva taught this verse, society was different. And in order to learn how to love other people, he said, love them the way you love yourself, because self-love was natural. It was an instinct. We were born with it. Today, our society doesn't work that way. And either it's through our upbringing or through society or just what we're born with, people don't naturally love themselves. And this is like something that I think we really have to work on, because when you show kindness to yourself, it really spills over to all the aspects of your life. What does it mean to show kindness to yourself? We all have our days, our weeks where we're doing better, we're not doing better. And we all seem to really get down in ourselves once in a while. Mostly we have emotions that are uncomfortable, especially in our society where there's all this social media. Everything looks perfect out there, but on the inside it doesn't feel perfect. So I feel so isolated because look at their pictures, they're all smiling. And they all have perfect skin and white teeth, right? It's all whitewashed. So when we feel uncomfortable emotions, not only are we feeling it, but we're also feeling isolated because everybody else seems to have it together. I think what we have to do a little bit is honor the emotions. Ask yourself what you're feeling. Are you feeling sad? Are you feeling scared? Are you angry? Are you hurt? Are you disappointed? And then ask yourself if you have a good reason to feel that way. For me, I struggle with fear a lot. And every so often, this fear just overwhelms me. And I think to myself, do I have a good reason to be afraid? Yeah, I don't want to raise my kids by myself. It terrifies me. So be afraid. Allow yourself to feel what's going on in your life. And I know that all of you think it's okay for me to do that, right? Because everybody has a lot of compassion for other people. But what about yourselves, right? When you all saw that movie, that video, you probably were moved. All I thought was how fat I am, right? That's just the way it works. We're really hard on ourselves, and we're really nice on other people. And we have to start thinking about what are the ways we would be supportive of our friends. If our friends were going through something sad, would we give them permission to be sad? And we have to do the same for us. And something really amazing happens when you do that. The emotion passes much quicker. This desperateness that you're feeling, it disappears because you've shown yourself kindness. I'm not saying it's instant. I'm just saying it's faster. It works better when we're nicer to ourselves. I want to tell you that everything I learned, honestly, I learned the hard way. I didn't have any magic tricks. I learned it when I was falling apart. Each and every time I'm falling apart, I learned something new. And every time to get up, it takes courage. And courage is something incredible because courage doesn't feel courageous. It feels like you're about to fall apart. And you just keep doing what you're supposed to be doing. For me, my children are my great motivators. I really want them to have a good life. And as much as my son says it feels like we lost a father, we eat our meals in my husband's room. The parent-teacher conferences are in my husband's room. We have services every weekend, every holiday in my husband's room. The whole house revolves around him, and he's there. And he gets to take part in it, and he gets to speak to them, and he made pickles with my youngest son, right? He actually perhaps is there more than most people that are at work. But it's different, and we'll drive by a car, and the kids will look there, and there's a dad singing with the kids, and it'll become really quiet in the car because it hurts. It's painful. It doesn't mean that there isn't beauty in it. And one of the most amazing lessons that I learned is perhaps the difference between pain and suffering. Shortly, 5 years ago, after Rosh Hashanah, my husband was rushed to the hospital where he had a tracheostomy, which means they connected him through his neck to a ventilator, which helps him breathe. And he lost all movement in his body at that time, so all independence. And interestingly enough, your body doesn't love that. Like, you want to breathe through your mouth and nose. And when you get nervous, you want to slow down your breathing. And when a machine just breathes for you, it's really kind of shocking. And it was a really traumatic time for him and for me. And we went from having a bedroom to having a hospital room with a nurse inside of it all the time. And my husband told me after a few months, I need to go away for Shabbos and be with women. And there was a beautiful women's retreat that I went to, and this woman taught me something amazing. She says, Dina, it looks like you're suffering, but you don't have to. There is a difference between pain and suffering. Pain, everybody has pain in their life. Nobody gets to avoid it. Suffering is when you have no purpose to your pain, and that is your choice. My husband's dream in life was to be a rabbi and a teacher. He never lost his goal he never lost his mission. He tells me he got a promotion. We had this little Chabad house in a hick town in California where we had about 30 families, and now he writes and he speaks to the world. For me, everything was very different. I am very shy. My biggest fear in life is public speaking, even if it meant speaking in front of like 6 women in our community. I would wake up with a rash on my face. My husband was the talker, I was the listener, very happy at home being a mom with my kids, and everything changed. And I went from living in a little city to moving to Los Angeles, where it was more support for our family. The kids were in school at that time. 4 of them were in LA, so I wanted to be where everybody could live home and not dorm. And it was a lot of changes, and it took me a long time to find that balance. And I think this is what everybody is looking for in life. Everybody is looking for balance. Sometimes, though, we confuse balance with comfort, and the things we're comfortable, we think is what gives us balance, but really it's not the right balance. We have to balance the relationship between God and ourselves in this world, what we need to do for God and what we need to do for us. We have to balance the heaven and the earth. We have to, like, the spiritual aspects of our life and the mundane aspects of our life, and find a beautiful mesh between all of that. It's really our mission in life to find your particular light, the light that you have that nobody else in the world has, and find a way that you can shine it in your life, in your community, and in this world to make the world a brighter and warmer place. And I want to tell you, it's probably that thing that you want to do the least, like public speaking. It's not easy, but each one of us has something special to offer this world. Each one of us has a wealth of love and knowledge and compassion to give to the people around us. When Yitzi got sick, I watched him lose parts of himself, month after month. It started with his mouth and his speech and his ability to eat and sing and pray, kiss the kids. And then it went to his left side of the body, so his walk was off, and then the right side of the body, and there went a lot of taking care of himself and dancing. He's an excellent dancer, and playing guitar. And I watched him lose one thing at a time. And every month he would turn to me with a shy smile and say, well, this isn't working, what are we gonna do now? And every month I would fall apart again. But he didn't. It was so interesting to me. When I meet you and I ask you who you are, most of you will tell me the things that you do. You're a mom, a wife, a sister, a daughter, a lawyer, a dancer, a teacher, an artist. I watched him lose all those things, and never for a second did he lose himself. When you walk into the room, if you've known him at all, and you take one look in his eyes, he's exactly the same person as he was. And this really taught me something amazing. There's a line that Stephen Hawking said, which I'm not a big fan of his after he boycotted Israel. It was actually one of the only days where I saw my husband depressed. Because up until then, we thought that ALS does not affect your mind. Eventually it does, because he knew that half of the equipment that he is using to keep him alive is from Israel. So I don't know how he worked that one out. I'm sure this is a Hasidic line long before Stephen Hawking said it, but he said, we are not a body with a soul. We are a soul with a body. And each one of our souls has a unique purpose. And I want to tell you something. If anybody has an excuse to sit back and not do anything, it would be my husband. His body doesn't even work. The only thing that works is his mind, his eyes, his heart. And he does not stop working, not for 1 second. We all have things we can do, and we have all the tools that we need to do these things, to change the world, to change our home, to be a happy place and a loving place. We don't need more money. We don't need to lose weight. We don't need a nicer house or a nicer car or more followers on Instagram. We just need our mind and our heart to know that we can do it, and to know that you're the only one in this world that can do what you're supposed to be doing. So I want to give all of you a blessing. We're a little bit before the Jewish New Year. I know that there's a lot on everybody's shoulders. And I know that everybody has a lot of pain in their hearts. I want to give you a blessing that you do not suffer through this pain. You find a way to turn it into light. You have community and friends to make sure that you're not going through it alone. And if and when you cry, because we all do that, you cry tears of joy, gratitude, thanking God for all the blessings, even if they're hard blessings, for all the blessings that we have in our life. We are truly the most blessed people in all of Jewish history. There's never been a generation that has as much as we do. And we still have so much pain in our hearts. It's unbelievable. But we have to do something good with it. We have to take that pain and want to make sure nobody else goes through it. We want to make sure that everybody sees the love. Never let it turn to hate. And live the best, joyful, brightest life that you possibly can. Thank you so much.